Okay, I want you to pay particular attention to this garment I'm wearing. I've got a funny story. Interesting. I had picked this up at a thrift store or a rummage sale. I've had it for a while now. And it's nice, it's warm. And when I had bought it, I noticed, you know, it's McDonald, made in New Zealand. And I thought, well, you know, I can spot quality from a long ways away. I seldom get fooled because I have expensive taste with very little money. You know, and I'm very cheap. So I have learned to spot good things. But one thing I hadn't noticed until yesterday, I was putting this on and I happened to see the tag. And I was really surprised because it says, it puzzled me. It says 40% possum fur and 50% lamb's wool, merino lamb's wool, and 10% nylon. You know, I couldn't, you know, as far as I knew, okay, this is possum without an O, you know, it's just with a P. And I thought maybe this is some made-up name for some, you know, you run into strange fabrics that are weird combinations, but I have never run into possum fur before. But then I noticed too on this leather tag in here, it says Possum-Merino blend. So I started looking. And it is true that in New Zealand they have a plague of possums, but their possums aren't like our possum. They're kind of in the same family, but they're a whole different animal. But what happened is they had taken them, there was some in Australia, they shipped them over to New Zealand, you know, with the idea of having, you know, to harvest the fur from these possums because they, like I say, they're a whole different animal, though they have some of the same family characteristics of our possums. But, you know, whereas our possums look like, you know, some kind of giant rat on steroids or something with a Cheshire cat kind of grin. Their possums are cuter, let's say. But anyway, so they shipped all these possums over, and you know, anytime you do it, evidently there's no natural predator for a possum in New Zealand, so they just went completely nuts. It's full of possums. You know, New Zealand has a lot of sheep, but they have twice as many possums as they do sheep. So, turns out that this possum fur, when blended with the wool, makes a thing that's warmer than pure wool, because the possum fur has a hollow stem to it. So it's like 30% lighter than wool and 20% warmer than wool, because it's hollow, like a polar bear fur. You know, I took a little researching on this to figure this out, but really quite interesting. You know, I had just never seen garments made of possum fur before. But, you know, at first I thought, okay, so they got all these possums, they're trying to get rid of them. I thought it might be like, I know at one time China had come up with this grand idea. They have too many rats. So they were going to try to think of a way to get rid of the rats. They came up with a great plan that they would, the only way to get rid of them is to make, if they have some value, then people will go after them. It's like here, people used to trap gophers because you could get like a nickel for the tail. So little school kids were trapping gophers all the time, and the county, I think, or the townships would pay a nickel for the tail. I think there's still a bounty on gophers in that way. My ma used to do it when she was a kid. Save the tails in a little Prince Albert can. Anyway, so they were trying to make rats valuable, so they came up with a big scheme of making rat skin mattresses. And they think a little differently than we do in a lot of that sort of thing, because they were actually quite shocked when they found out, their big plan was to export them all over the world, cheap rat skin mattresses. They found out they couldn't give them away. People didn't want rat skin mattresses. So the whole, rat extermination plot failed. So I thought, well, maybe New Zealand is trying to get rid of their possums by doing it that way. But I think actually their best bet would probably be to import some predators, something that'll eat possums and won't eat sheep. That's what they need. But anyway, it had the brand name on it, so I looked it up. I knew it was good. I didn't know how good. Turns out this exact jacket, they call it a jacket. It's got sheep's, lamb skin collar and pockets, that sort of thing. The thing is, a $500 jacket. What I probably paid 10, maybe 15 at the most. It's surprising what you can run into, but it always makes you wonder too. I mean, if somebody here was to order this thing, you would treasure it. You would know what it's worth. It wouldn't end up in a thrift store. So it almost makes me think that somebody must have given it as a gift, like somebody had been in New Zealand and gave it as a gift to somebody here, like their dad or something. And her dad said, oh, I don't want that possum sweater, possum jacket. I don't know what she was thinking, so we'll just give it to the thrift store. But anyway, I get a lot of stuff that way. High quality stuff, you can buy it cheap in a thrift store. And so much of the stuff like this, I'm sure they'd never even been worn. I mean, it's just new. But I'm styling in possum. I've got a sister that's going to be just jealous about this.